Hi, this is Mark, and I've got a ton of stuff to cover today. Usually I just post some links to stories and paraphrase a few things, but there's a lot of stuff today. So I thought I'd shoot a video, and one of my good buddies was saying the other day, what happened to my videos? So here is one today. So I want to start off with Forward Observer covers a lot of really interesting intel information that you don't get in the mainstream media. And right now, the Biden administration has said that, for example, that a retaliation is coming for the SolarWinds cyber attack within weeks, according to the Forward Observer. This is a really interesting development. If you're familiar with the Orion software that was hacked and then it propagated through government systems, and it was believed to have originated from Russia, but other investigations indicated that it was Russian actors actually within the United States. So it was really interesting. Biden is planning on retaliating. It's also at the same time that Chinese military leaders believe that they have the decisive military capability to go into to Taiwan in the next 1 to 2 years and actually be able to keep the island. So this is all like international development right now. And tech leaders also have warned both the House and the Senate Armed Services Committee that we are falling behind China in a number of areas, AI being one of them, quantum computing, satellites, and hypersonic missiles. We have some work in the private sector. You know, we have private satellites and things like that, but apparently as far as a country and our defense, we are falling behind China. That's kind of important for people to be aware of and to know that. And it seems like the administration was aware of that previously and that this has been a long-standing problem. What they plan on doing about it, I'm not sure yet. Right now, the U.S. is trying to source things from other countries besides China. There's a big battle going on for rare earth minerals. If you've been familiar with the China shipping charts out of Africa, I mean, for years it was just full of rare earth minerals coming out of Africa. And there's a little secret Cold War going on in Africa right now, very similar to what happened right before World War I broke out. So it's, you know, this is a lot of just wild things that are happening right now that we don't hear about much in the media. A lot of us aren't even tuned into the media because it's basically just this constant rant against anything normal. So a lot of people have just tuned it out now, and that's mostly due to the criticisms and lies about Trump. And as you know, there's been this long battle over Trump's tax returns, and there's this constant assault. So everyone's aware of the fact that Trump's tax returns have been allowed to be turned over, and they have been obtained by the Manhattan District Attorney. They will probably not be published to the public. They're part of that ongoing other hoax investigation. If you can think of a better word, let me know. But this is just the continuous attack, basically, on the issues. This is what we're having. This is what's going on. If you look at Breitbart today, Nolte says polls show Republicans care about issues, Democrats just hate Republicans. And that really sums up what's happening in our political world. Whenever you talk to one of these people online or you see one of their posts, it's constant, like, I'm willing to throw any right I have away in order to get back at Trump and Trump supporters, but they never can name an issue. Like when I say, well, name 3 issues that you don't like about Trump. And they used to talk about the cages, but then we learned during the debate that it was under Obama's administration the cages were there, and Trump actually reduced them, and it looks like they're going back up again with more child separation. So whenever they name the issues, it's always an issue that pre-existed that the media pretended like it didn't. And so this is a real problem when you have half the country that won't debate. And I see intelligent people and business leaders who are actually in that community that just simply won't debate. When you want to talk about anything from the election to health care to revoking presidential orders to lower the cost of medicine for people on Medicaid, why would Biden do that? But he did it. But people are either unaware of this or they simply won't debate it when they discover it, because they have literally created a syndrome of hate. And all of this stuff you're hearing, all of this identity politics and everything, this is just to keep people from discussing the real issues that are taking place in the country, whether it be economic, financial, foreign policy, whatever it is. Most of these people can't name policy. And when you start talking about policy, they actually don't believe you. When you say Trump was involved in stopping or reducing the sentences that were aimed towards putting black people in prison for a longer time. But he actually did something towards that, and Biden never did. Biden actually wrote the laws that the people who were in the streets protesting were protesting against. It's called the Upside Down. There was a lady, her name was literally, what's her face? She did a great video. We are living in the freaking upside down. It's like they think that Trump called Nazis fine people. I mean, the list is endless. And so now we're probably going to have another hoax with this tax return situation. So on the tax return, it's New York, and basically I consider New York just a criminal state altogether, and they pretty much just work with each other to basically stifle competition and to get rid of their political enemies. So I have no faith that there's going to be a fair review of the evidence or even the ability to put in both sides of the story, which is a problem that we have actually in our court systems. A lot of the laws for the submission of evidence that you're innocent, which you shouldn't even have to submit, but if it proves that you're innocent, or if it's an argument that says, hey, you broke the law because of this, and that could result in you not being convicted, frequently this information's not allowable. It's not permissible to go in front of the jury. So, and speaking of which, the evidence, if you look up with Russiagate, now this is the fake investigation that says that Trump was a Russian asset or an agent for Russia, which is just a crazy, crazy conspiracy. And by the way, whenever people start saying that righties are QAnon conspiracy theorists and all this crazy stuff like that, point out the cages, the Russiagate, collusion. I mean, that was a great hoax. That was a huge conspiracy theory. Many of them still believe in it today because a lot of the media, the mainstream media stations, which are just run by a few companies, have not actually retracted the story in many areas. So there's people that actually believe that Russia colluded with Trump and vice versa. So this is just more of the crazy stuff. So the Trump actually tried to get the Russiagate files released. In his final days, he did finally just give up because he didn't believe it was going to be done. And and this is a story in the Epoch Times today, that in the final days, Trump gave up on forcing the release of the Russiagate files. And it's a really sad thing. He did get a few things released, which were really interesting. We have information, for example, in the Homeland Security Committee in the House of them talking about what a security threat our current president actually is to the United States of America. And so there was a lot of intel released that was really interesting. But the good stuff that implicates previous presidents apparently was not on the agenda. Now, another thing that we had to look at, we have this huge slurry of just revoking executive orders. And he has revoked not only the executive order reducing the cost of medication for patients on Medicaid, but he also he signed several executive orders, one of them regulating the financial system in a way where it empowers Americans to make independent financial decisions and informed choices in the marketplace and save for retirement. A lot of regulations actually are designed, if you've read Dodd-Frank or you know anything about, for example, the Bank Secrecy Act, it's really designed to keep people who don't already have money from making money. And a really good example of that is when I was running the exchange, we had a person that wanted to do a transaction that was around $500 million. But because we didn't already have an average balance of about $500 million in our account, 50 million in the account, we couldn't do the $500 million transaction. And for me, the only reason that exists in my mind, and 70% of Americans agree with this according to Rasmussen, is to stifle competition, because at that level of business, $500 million transaction, that's actually life-changing, and that would have put me into a position of being more influential. So basically, just like any trade where they're trying to keep the new guys out, financial regulations are a way of trying to keep people who are extremely wealthy, while selling the idea to the poor people that we're regulating large businesses. But only really a foolish person would believe that, or as according to the previous article, Democrats hate Republicans, Republicans like to talk about issues. This is talking about an issue. And when I talk to Democrats about this issue, they don't understand it. And then when you say, well, look what it did to my business, they make excuses for the government instead of saying, oh, well, that's why we had this huge disparity of income. And this gets to my second point. It's all zero sum if you're not talking about issues and you're talking about identity politics. Because the entire idea is that someone else must suffer in order for you to gain, and that is zero sum. In other words, instead of fixing the disparity in sentencing for minorities like Trump did, you have to sentence white people to more time. The second one there, that is zero sum thinking, and that literally is the epicenter of the Democrat Party. It's about making enemies. This person's your enemy. This is our tribe, okay? And you've got to stop those people. Bad people, bad. Orange people, bad. That's basically what you're dealing with here. And it's really sad because we don't have the civics that we used to have. We don't have the discussions. And we actually have people now who previously were for freedom of speech and were for Fourth Amendment protections and for the Second Amendment. And now they're willing to give up some of those things in order to get back at people that literally hurt their feelings or said something that challenges their paradigm. Think about that. That's disgusting. All right. Executive order reducing poverty in America by promoting opportunity and economic mobility. Trump's order directed the federal government to reform the welfare system around a set of core principles, including improving economic independence, targeting benefits for people with low incomes, and reducing wasteful spending by consolidating or eliminating federal programs that are duplicative or ineffective. That was rescinded by Joe Biden. The Biden administration also axed a presidential memo that unshackled the Department of Defense from collective bargaining constraints in order to give the military maximum flexibility to cultivate a lethal, agile force adapted to new technologies and posture changes. So there you have Trump addressing the issue of us falling behind technologically and Biden rescinding the order. Literally, like I said earlier, we are living in the upside down. Like everything the Democrats claim that they're for, they're actually against, and it looks like everything they accuse the Republicans of, they're actually doing right now. And I'm not a big fan of the Republican Party. I believe that they're really corrupt. I think right now the only reason they're even responding to people is because Trump is the Republican Party right now, and they actually have to respond to what he's doing, or they're going to become basically obsolete in the eyes of most Republicans. In fact, there was a poll last week, 50% of Republicans would leave the party if Trump started a new one. That would pretty much ensure the Democrats win forever, and the Republicans want to figure out a way to placate the people who are paying them, their lobbyists, their stakeholders, not you and I voting, doesn't matter, right? Their stakeholders, while maintaining power. In order to maintain that power, they do have to placate us now a little bit, because we have one person who's actually representing us, okay? And it's actually representing Democrats too. Many of the things that they want, they just don't believe it because they're being told to be hateful and to be offended. So basically, another thing too is another title promoting beautiful civic architecture, which directed a sweeping stylistic overhaul of federal architecture with a focus on a return to classical and traditional forms, aka the No Ugly Art Allowed memo, was also undone. So there you go. Anything reasonable, anything American has to be undone. And this is all part of, when they're trying to make a big power shift, like they're trying to do, you have to unseat everything that was considered a rock or stability in the old society. And boy, are they doing it. I mean, they're doing it with everything from class to gender to race to these macro, macro little cultural differences where everybody can just fight over everything. It's absolutely ridiculous. But it's working to some extent with about half of the population right now. So this is also, he says, rescinding, modifying, waiving, and providing exemptions from regulations during COVID, which could imperil economic recovery. And this is why I trusted Trump so much with the economy, because he understands that a lot of these regulations are, like I previously said, they're there to stifle competition. He was rescinding those regulations, or at least putting them on hold so the economy could recover. And they're going to rescind that because they're trying to protect us, essentially. So there's a lot here to cover today, and I covered most of it, looks like. And so I will produce another video when I have this much stuff to go over. There's a constant slew of information. And I think, I'll close on this note. As this channel grows and gets larger, obviously it's going to get banned by YouTube. And so I will move this over to somewhere like BitChute, or I'll probably get over there pretty soon myself. If you guys have some ideas where to upload other videos, let me know, comment below, follow me on Telegram, and follow me here on YouTube. And I make a lot of posts on Telegram, and A few on Facebook if you're a friend of mine on Facebook.